All right. Let's go to the next slide, John. It's our connection activity. Thank you. So I know we always start with a brief connection activity, and today's question is, when it comes to your work, what is your North Star? Um, so while you think about this, I can begin. And I can share that throughout my life, I've been really fortunate to meet incredible educators from my own teachers growing up and to colleagues who I worked with when I was in early intervention and to the teachers who support my children now. So I really deeply appreciate the work they do. So my North Star is creating systems that reward and retain great teachers, educators, teachers and educators, so they can strengthen the field and continue supporting all children and families. So that's my answer to the question. And who would like to go next? You can speak up or you can type in the chat.
Well, if nobody's willing to step forward, Sun Young, I'm happy to do it. This idea of a North Star guiding you, in my thinking, I think about it as kind of sailor terms, right? That there may be a storm blowing through and getting bounced around, and you can't see over from one crest to the other, or you can't see the horizon to make sure you're going the right way. And so you track this North Star in order to continue plowing forward. And I currently have a project and have done various projects over the years working with Pacific Islanders. My current project is working with Pacific Islanders here in the Pacific Northwest. And so that's relevant to them. And so, this idea of a North Star for me is, making sure that students, children that have I guess one way to think about it is unfair starts on life. Can continue to get the services they have to elevate their outcomes.
Thanks, John. That's beautiful. And I see that some people have typed in the chat. I see Trina says her North Star phrase is learning should be meaningful. Absolutely. I cannot agree with you more. Um, Michelle says, what's best for kids? That sounds like that's her North Star question. Awesome. Lucy says, my North Star is building and supporting relationships in our field that give all students the opportunities to reach their greatest potential. No one gets left out. Yes, that's beautiful. Thanks, Lucy. Tracy says, every child being included and having equitable access to opportunities. That's kind of like what John was talking about, right? So we're all on the same page. Alicia says her North Star is outcomes for students, is what I'm doing supporting positive change for our students. Yeah, always associating my actions and what we are doing, the implementation to outcomes. That's so critical, right? As SPIDIC community, SPIDIC project directors, SPIDIC personnel. So I so appreciate, Alicia, you pointing that out. Kelly, hi, Kelly. Family Partners to Virginia SPIDIC, tiered systems of support. Her North Star is empowering families, especially families raising children, youth, and young adults with intensive needs. Yes, that's why we are here. Thanks, Kelly, for being here. Paula says giving back to the profession of special education to strengthen the work and build capacity and sustainability. Yes, we always have to think about not just what we are doing at the moment, but sustainability and capacity building, right? Bill says my North Star is public service, commitment to doing the best I can for the public good. Yes. There's so many good answers here. Ensuring opportunity and belonging for every child, every educator, not just child, but every educator. Building relationships, I heard that already, but I think that's so critical in education. and building systems and structures that support professionals who serve students. Yes, we really need to support them, and we need to provide strong, robust support to educators and teachers. Empowering people in the field to do the best for students. Veronica, thank you. She agrees with me. Driving force is my love for teachers who give all their heart and soul to their students. Yes. Amanda, supporting systems work to support the need of all students and supporting them in accessing high quality education. I think many people are pointing out the importance of relationship and also access. So I agree with you. Human flourishing, Tom. I believe that everyone's existence is an important fulfillment of potential, and each and all of us have innate potential for a life. Okay, I'm gonna read one more and then I'm gonna move on. Okay, serve youth and families and provide resources that I didn't have growing up. Thanks, Dominic. Okay, thank you all for taking a moment to connect with everyone and share. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here is our agenda for today. I don't know if we can cover all of these before I introduce the speakers, because we really had a good kind of conversation now. So we're a little bit short on time, but I'll try. We will start with a question from a colleague and spend a few minutes brainstorming together. So I'll introduce the colleague soon. Then I'll share a new resource and revisit Noster's model for managing complex changes. I know Jennifer mentioned that several times already through these meetings last few months. And then we'll continue kind of, try to look at the model through the lens of family partnership and family engagement. I like partnership better than engagement, so we'll continue thinking about that. After that, we'll hear from the Minnesota team, SPDIC team, Tom and Dominic, about family engagement, their work, their partnership. And then we'll close with a presentation from Bill, Bill Hannekens. Am I saying it right, Bill? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Okay. On developing a data dashboard. So that sounds really interesting. That's the agenda. Before we dive in, any questions I need to address? Okay, if not, let's move on. So next slide. Is Tammy here?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do see Tammy in the audience. I think it was Jenny
Great.
that actually brought the question up during the office hours. Tammy, did Jenny bring that question to you?
Well, now that you remind me, she did say she had a question, and then she can't be here today because she's at a regional meeting. So I don't know if she shared it with me.
Oh, well, that's okay. If she didn't, we can circle back around at the next director's webinar as well.
Yeah, she did talk to me about it, but then I didn't know if you guys had the question. I can speak to it if you have the question, but I can't remember what she asked she came to the office hours last week. She did tell me that she asked a question, but then she wasn't going to be here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't have
Yeah.
the question on offhand. So why don't we just plan to come back around to it? I'll send an email to Jenny to let her know that we weren't able to address it, and then we'll come back to it.
I apologize, but yes,
No,
hopefully
that's fine.
she goes to Havre, which is a very northern Montana town, on Thursdays that often fall on these dates. So
Got it. That's fine. Well, let me take just a chance to put a plug in that, the office hours are open for anybody to attend and bring questions they might have, whether it's for myself or more commonly directly for Jennifer Coffey. If those questions aren't able to be answered during those office hours, an opportunity is to either then send it up the flagpole, so to speak, and bring it to a director's webinar where perhaps other people in the community can answer, and then or send that out via email to the community as well. So a plug to do that, and encourage people to take advantage of those office hours. It's a great opportunity to get kind of direct face-to-face time with Dr. Coffey.
That sounds perfect. Thanks, John. Go to the next slide. Okay. So I think this was about the question, fidelity measures, but we'll circle back. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so I think this is where Jennifer Coffey usually shares a new resource. So I had a chance to read the articles before the meeting. I just wanted to really encourage all of you to check out the resource. So there was a recent EdWeek issue focused on professional development, especially teacher-led PD, professional development and collaboration. I believe it was the January issue of EdWeek. And the link is on the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. So like I said, I want all of you to check it out. Just a few takeaways that stood out to me I can share is that how we can better support dedicated teachers who are already in the field. I know I'm one of the leads at PDP at OSEP. We always talk about shortages in the field and how to bring new people, how to bring more people. But I think what is also very important is how to keep the teachers that are really doing great work in the field already. How do we protect them? How do we support them? How do we provide leadership roles for them so they can share their knowledge with more bigger circles? The issue, there are multiple articles in there, also talks about ways to help teachers step into leadership roles, whether at the school level or district level. So I found that really interesting. And then lastly, it also talks about the administrators' roles on the school level administrators and district level administrators, how they can make professional development decisions informed by teacher voices and their needs, their actual needs. So I found the articles, all of the articles in the issue very insightful. And I think many of you will find it interesting too. So I look forward to hearing your reflections in the future when we have an opportunity. So that's the new resource.
And just to let people know, Sun Young, that link I put in the chat so people can pick up that link and either store it or open it in a tab and look at it later.
You're the best, John. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here's a quote, but I'm gonna just actually pass this through. We are already at 3:16. Take a look at this slide and kind of think about it later. And then the next few slides, let's go to the next slide. It's about the dissemination work, the complex change, how they kind of fit in with each other. Go to the next slide. The dissemination workbook, you should be already familiar with all of this. Next one. This is the graphic Jennifer Coffey has shared in the last few months, the Nostr model for managing complex change. So we're really looking at this in the context of family partnership. So let's go to the next slide. We want you to continue thinking about how the Nostr's model applies in your partnership with families in your context, and go to the next slide. And reflect on these 4 questions, like how you have built relationship with family partners over time, and how do you measure success? Do you even measure success or not? If not, why not? Like, how can we do that? And how do you support each other's dissemination efforts? Is it mutually beneficial or is it not? And how do you, have you had that communication? And which areas of the model for complex change are strengths for the partnership, or which areas are tougher? And are there multiple, if you're missing multiple areas, multiple boxes in the model, like how do you prioritize? I want you to all think about these questions. So maybe in July, I think we'll have opportunities to talk about this, the model really in the context of family partnership. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so I'm gonna stop speaking now and then introduce our speakers for today. Like I said earlier, we want to hear from the Minnesota team first. So Tom and Dominic, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon. I think everyone here is in the afternoon, right? I always have to double check that. No, there might be. No, I think we're all in the afternoon. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Delaney, the Minnesota SPDG Director, and I am joined today by my very good colleague, Dominic Goodbuffalo. And what we're going to talk about is our partnership between the Minnesota Department of Education and what Dominic does over at our Parent Training Information Center at Pacer. And we're going to talk about it in the context of that beautiful Noster model for complex change that you just saw. Um, so I'm going to switch to presenter mode here. All right. So Dominic and I have a very, very scripted and well-rehearsed presentation for you today. So look forward to that. Okay. Including this title slide with logo. Yes, there it is. So depending on your modality, you can get it both ways there. Dominic, you want to say hello to the everyone?
Yes. Hi, again, Dominic Goodbuffalo, Pacer Center, parent advocate and SPDEG coordinator with the program. And so been working actively with youth and families since 2003. I am Oglala Lakota from Pine Ridge Reservation, Rapid City, South Dakota. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
All right. Dominic's going to get me later for the title slide with logo. I know. I said, come on, man. All right. So, uh, Jennifer wanted us to consider a few questions today and talking with you all. So I'll just run through it. A little view of key questions. How have we built our relationship over time? How do we measure success in our partnership? And how do we support each other's dissemination? And how do we make complex change happen together? So we're going to tell you about those things. We're going to walk you through how we work together. In our state personnel development grant, Pacer Center, where Dominic works, is a very long-standing and important partner to the Minnesota Department of Education. And man, if I can think back to writing that application, we kind of wanted a couple of different approaches to improving graduation rates for American Indian students with disabilities. And we wanted to partner with Pacer Center to do two things. We wanted to get better consultation, training opportunities, and engagement strategies out to our sub-grantee school districts. And at the same time, there is just this overarching challenge of providing statewide resources for families of American Indian students with disabilities. Okay, so I should stop. Why American Indian students with disabilities? So back in the beginning of the whole state systemic improvement plan, indicator 17, day when all our states had to choose a key performance indicator out of them all to focus on. For a number of reasons, the Minnesota Department of Education decided to take a look at who has the lowest graduation rate among students with disabilities. And we figured out it's our American Indian students with disabilities. We have 11 tribal communities in the state. We have large urban tribal populations. And I don't know, sometimes things just line up and you're like, you know what? That's what we want to do. We want to improve graduation rates for those students. And so that's what we decided to do. We also added Black students with disabilities as well. I have to say, too, American Indian students with disabilities was an important group for us to pick because in any disaggregation or cross comparison we did, American Indian students with disabilities had the lowest graduation rate in our state, even compared to other programs like kids in foster care, everything else. When you combine at the intersection of being American Indian, having a disability, the school system in our state was not working. So we needed we need some complex change, that's for sure. And I'll be honest, we didn't start out with a Noster model, so we now have the luxury of looking backwards, like, oh yeah, that's why that worked, and also the luxury of, oh yeah, that's why that failed miserably. So we used the same picture of it that Jennifer Coffey has presented previously. I love this, just to warm up your minds. It lists those key elements of vision, skills, motivation, resources, and action plan. And I love the chart because it illustrates what happens when one of those is missing. And I'm sure all of us can identify with times in our professional life in this field where we have felt everything from confusion, anxiety, all the way to false start, like what went wrong? Okay. So back to our partnership. Let's start with the vision piece, the first in that row. So at MDE, we're all about all children. That's our way of saying, including students with disabilities, get necessary support for healthy development and lifelong learning. And Dominic, you want to hit us up? What's Pacer Center's mission there?
So Pacer Center, at the end of the day, we are champions for children with disabilities, and we are about parents helping parents, and families helping families. And so we not only are advocates for our parents, sitting in individual IEP meetings or conciliation conferences or mediations, we also support them and giving them the confidence that they need to be a better advocate for themselves, and ultimately having their children be advocates. And so we work from early childhood all the way to Minnesota law has changed now till the age of 22 within the state of Minnesota. So really, we cover all those areas throughout that transition. And one of the most, I guess, not necessarily overlooked, but transition from high school to post-secondary, or whatever that looks like for the child. And so we also focus on transition as well. And so really just Pacer Center just really improves, the educational opportunities for those families, and enhances the quality of life of children and young adults with disabilities and their families. And so really, just like what Tom said before, we saw what the data was, we saw what needed to change. And so, I'm so glad that Minnesota decided to invest in this specific community and my community. I am in that large urban population of Native students. I was one of them. Graduated from Minneapolis Roosevelt, which I just live right down the street from. So, yeah, and so glad to continue this work with Pacer, and glad to serve those families that have students with disabilities. So,
Right on. So I love this slide because I think the Nostr model, you're usually thinking just one organization, right? It's what's our vision. But when you're talking about a partnership, this slide and what's on it becomes super important, because there's a vision on the left with a state agency and a vision on the right with a parent center that can dance together to make good things
mm,
happen. And if I were to work on stuff in the future, whether it's SPDGs or anything, it's really important, I think, to consider what's the vision of my organization and what is the vision of my partner, and is it compatible? Can it be integrated so that we can actually work on complex change? In deciding to work on complex change, I can share that MDE, my agency, served up quite a laundry list of things we wanted Pacer to do, new stuff. So for a long time, Pacer kind of had a baseline organizational skill set that you'll probably recognize as whatever the same set that your parent center that you're working with has. But when it came to improving graduation rates for American Indian students with disabilities, what you see in the right-hand column there was what we were looking for. So you'll see some keywords there. We wanted PACE to expand into having culturally informed staffing, and to provide supports to school districts specifically around better engagement with American Indian families and students with disabilities. There at the bottom, we also wanted a Pacer Center to expand its outreach to Native families. So, I think every state is like this. You tend to get a lot of service and support and outreach concentration in your urban centers. So we have Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota. But most of our American Indian families and students are in rural, outstate Minnesota. So I always refer to it as the difference between fishing off the dock and taking the boat out. If you want to reach
Mm.
families of American Indian students, you've got to get to outstate Minnesota. So that's what we were hoping Pacer would do. Oh, I went too fast here. So that refers to kind of the skills square that was in the Noster model. Next one is motivation. So what energizes and motivates our two organizations, and can that dance together? I didn't know how else to phrase it at MDE. I called it the value of delight and educational excellence. We like doing things well when we do it. It's a joy when stuff works. You can say, "Wow, that worked," and we racked up a win. We had long history of positive experiences making PBIS happen. Some kind of interesting, strange things, maybe. So our staff at MDE, at the time of designing the SPDG, had previous experience with leading Dakota and Ojibwe language revitalization with our Minnesota Indian Affairs Council. And our agency had a very positive experience deciding to refocus on education for American Indian, or we use the term indigenous students, and we create a task force, and that worked great. And mathematical win-win at the bottom there. We also knew that, look, if we can raise the graduation rates for American Indian students with disabilities in Minnesota, we're raising rates for the kids with the lowest rate. And mathematically, that will always percolate upward to improving the state's rate in general, right? In the place where it needs it. So the math was there, okay? So then I asked, Dominic for today too. Dominic, what energizes Pacer Center? Where's the motivation coming from over there? And Dominic, do you just want to say a few things?
Yeah, yeah. So just what Tom just said with over the MDE, we reflect that over at Pacer, but not only that, um, and being the parent training center in the state of Minnesota, I think really it's that cultural piece, that cultural identity, and making sure that is probably number one. And sorry, I should throw this in there too, culture and language as well. And so to try to promote that in everything that Pacer does. And so Pacer isn't perfect. I'm not saying Pacer has it together, but the one thing that I am currently doing is helping change those things. So not just that institutional mindset like Tom just mentioned, but helping Pacer Center get better at serving Native families. And so going out in the community, going out into those 11 tribal communities as much as I can. And you'll see a little later in the presentation a couple pictures from a couple of those community events. But ultimately, it's our organizational belief in the potential of person with disability, as well as his inclusion and support for persons with disabilities in a just society. And of course, we want to promote that. Working with staff, actually, I have coming up in April in a couple weeks here, a free workshop for educators to be more effective in working with American Indian families. And so working with them to and my colleagues, to train them to be more effective and authentic and transparent to Native families. So the historical role and credibility in advocating for students with disability and their families. So, there's a whole history I can talk about. I don't have enough time today, but, you could go down the line with boarding schools. You can go down the line of Native American communities and the U.S. government. We can talk about that all night. But the thing is to make that on the forefront. And, there's a thing called, blood trauma or generational trauma, as some might know it. And that thing is still a reality. I still work with families that are facing those things, whether those families are conscious of that trauma or not. And so really trying to build that bridge and, they see a result in me. They see someone that grew up in the community, went through education, and, to see that their kids too can go through the same results and if not, do way better than me. Just to be like, frank. And so I want them to be better than me. I want them to do bigger things than what I'm doing now. And so, but yeah, so SPDIC staff bring value of their culture and communities. And That's an everyday role here at Pacer, and we promote that at Pacer. SPDIC staff recognize the importance of cultural preservation and work for it. And so, not only do I focus on the Native community, I have a couple colleagues that, they focus on the Somali and Latino communities as well. And we have language supports for those families as well. And so, that's a very big deal for Pacer. And lastly, SPDIC staff help other staff and partners find and experience success in engaging with families of American Indian students with disabilities. So, I always have to make that clear wherever I go. It's not just for the Native community, but specifically those students with disabilities. And so I kind of have to make that draw out in every presentation I go. But yeah, that's Pacer Center's motivation.
Okay. So, complex change. The next square is you can't do much if you don't have resources. So, we use the active implementation frameworks extensively for everything and anything we do in the special ed division at MDE. So, I wanted to organize this slide in terms of the drivers that you'll see in how things actually get implemented, right? So, organization drivers at MDE. What keeps our work going? Definitely it's a state personnel development grant. Definitely we're in the backyard of the U of M, so check and connect, our main evidence-based practice, and doing research to practice is easy. Active implementation, CSEP, definitely drives our organization. It's a great resource. And everyone here today, OSEP and SIG Network, we get a ton of support from OSEP for the SPDG. And I get a ton of support from you guys as well, meeting together as a group. And whatever question we come up with or problem we're facing, there's somebody on this screen who's probably been there and figured it out, right? For competency drivers, like I said, PBIS has a long history and it's very successful in Minnesota. So that kind of helped us figure out what we're going to have to do to implement Check and Connect and better engagement with American Indian families. We have Check and Connect training in the backyard. We have all of our staff in the division trained up pretty well to be implementation support staff. And leadership drivers, like I said, when SIP time came around, the plans just kind of lined up and we prioritized. We want to help American Indian students with disabilities graduate at the same rate as other students. When I organized this and thinking about Pacer, some of the things are the same. So Pacer has a state personnel development grant. We also support Pacer with our own state grant. We call it like a state parent training and information center. So they do the work specifically in partnership with MDE. We've been doing that for a long time. And actually, I was intrigued to find out Pacer Center has a long history in advocating for American Indian students and families too. Back in 1995, Pacer Center had a Bush Foundation grant to do better outreach to American Indian families. So, yeah, I could be bummed that, wow, I thought we had a new thing going here and we were the pioneers and innovators. But no, actually, I'm glad to see the continuity that didn't get lost, that we came back around to it. And Pacer's got a ton of competency drivers in all of their experience, advocating for families, providing information, working with school systems. That's definitely something Pacer's been good at for a very long time. And the key at Pacer was an openness to this idea of expanding capacities and serving Native American or like American Indian families. If that openness wasn't there to agree to that, the partnership wouldn't happen. So I've just kind of mentioned two pieces, long-standing historical relationship between MDE and Pacer, and then we have the SPDG. What I want to do now is give you some answers to, well, what does that look like? What kinds of things have been going on with the Pacer Center? Dominic obviously brought into Pacer Center, expand capacity and do new stuff that Pacer Center wasn't doing before. So I just set up a gallery sort of or collage of Pacer Center events, and Dominic helped me out with that. But I'm going to let Dominic just kind of tell you what you're seeing on the screen, and we'll just walk through some stuff, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
So real quick, just with these events, again, I was trained under the IAP2 strategy. So that was the International Association for Public Participation. You guys might have heard of them. But really, it's making sure that families have a seat at the table. And so a part of that is really community connection and really just getting to where the families are. And so a part of my work, so a lot of it was virtual, a lot of it was in person. And so really the virtual piece was kind of stemming from COVID, since 2019, and families really love the virtual stuff and having access to that. And so, again, the first picture you can see to your left was my first year at Pacer, and so I've been just at Pacer at 2 years now. And so really my first summer, or that first school year was really just having a time virtually for families to come in, not worried about their school districts, not worried about, the meeting being recorded or anything like that, but for them to be open and honest about what needs to change specifically in their school district. So that's where the listening circles started. You guys might have heard the term listening circles, and especially used in the classroom. I've used it in the classroom. I've used it in, I think another good context would be restorative justice. And so that's where all that context comes from, because my people have been using listening circles for many, many years, many years. And that's how a lot of issues in my community get resolved. And so listening everybody's story and having a time for that. And as you can see the dates throughout the school year, going to those specific tribal communities. I went to Grand Portage, their wellness fair, something as little as that, just having an outreach table and, having families come in from Grand Portage. It's a little community up north in northern Minnesota, right by the Canada border. Really great place to go to. Really great community and a really great fair. And last but least, in the metro area, I helped with and partnered with St. Paul Public Schools in their CEDAR program, which is specifically for American Indian families and specifically for special education. So parents come and receive the sessions in English and get free childcare, they get a free dinner and transportation's provided. And so all that was from one of our bigger school districts, St. Paul Public Schools. So, but yeah, those are those three events right there.
We have got a couple more slides, and we got 5 minutes left, so maybe we can quickly cover them and take some questions.
Yep. And so, again, our partnership right there. I'm just coming off a listening circle last week on March 26th. And actually had another parent workshop that same week. So I have an opportunity for that this year. You can see the picture to the right with the CEDAR program. As you can see, a couple of the teachers right there talking at the smartboard, and really just making sure families have connection. That could also be digitally and by emails and what have you.
I'm laughing because I surprised Dominic with the email picture and the cell phone, and look how quick on the uptake. Nice work, man.
Yeah.
Couple more events things, Dominic.
Yep.
What's this stuff?
And upcoming events, again, the one that just passed March 24th was our Understanding Special Education for Your Native American Child. And so that was provided for Minnesota families. And just, all these are provided free for Minnesota families. They don't pay a price to attend these sessions. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, we have an engagement workshop for educators coming up on April 23rd, 2026. So that's making room for more stories. American Indian Family Engagement for Educators on April 23rd.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, this is something from social media. So you're on social media too, Dominic?
Yep. Social
email,
media,
cell phone,
emails,
and
everything.
Facebook. All right.
Yeah, and so really Pacer recognizes the National Native American Heritage Month, what happens in November, and specifically for the state of Minnesota, we have our own American Indian Month in May, which is coming up soon. A really great time for the state of Minnesota, and actually specifically the city of Minneapolis and St. Paul to just celebrate indigenous culture and bring those things together.
Hey, I'm going to back up just for a second here. So this thing over on the left, this is a big deal. So, we worry so much about whether Native families are on our radars and state agencies, and we have plenty of work to do that, to use data disaggregation and actually going to communities to get it on our radar. But I thought it's also interesting too, is your state agency or your project on the radar for Native communities? If you went anywhere in your state, we have 11 tribal communities and big cities here. Could I walk somewhere and to meet with some Native families and they have heard of the Minnesota SPDG? And to the extent they haven't, that's a problem. And we're all growing and evolving. Pacer Center probably wasn't on the radar until recently with Dominic doing some work. There's this little thing here, the Native American Community Development Institute, and it functions as sort of a radar, eyes and ears for what's going on for the Native community and tries to hook up families with resources. And as far as I know, for the first time ever, Pacer Center is listed with our state's Native American Community Development Institute. So, really important connection for the whole radar thing to go both ways. We see and are responding to Native communities, and we also want to make sure that we're on the radar. Native communities see us as doing outreach and being responsive and being available to help families. So I'll just say quickly in summary, yeah, that was a quick walkthrough, framed in the Nostr model. We took each element and walked through it there and explained some things about how we work. We have 1 minute left, and I'm smiling because we hardly ever finish on time. John knows, especially stuff I do is notorious for too long. But is there a quick question or something that's kind of burning or something that you'd like to ask us or?
Feel free to put questions in the chat or come off mute. And Tom, even though you say you tend to go over time often, it's always interesting to listen what you have to prepare or what you have to say. And so I appreciate your going over time, and I never noticed that you do. So
Yeah, okay, that's good. I
Veronica
like,
has a question.
yep, go ahead.
I do have a question if we have a second.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So I appreciated this so much. This is great. And I'm in Colorado and we have the CMTSS, the SPDAG, and we do CMTSS. It's good to see everyone. And we do have partnerships within our grant with us, particularly with Peak Parent Center. But I'm wondering how did you all get so tight and your work get so close? What systems did you have to put in place to build those relationships? Do you meet often? Do you feel like all of your work is connected to their work? Like, how did you get together to make it work so successfully?
Well, historically, I
What's
would
your
say,
secret sauce?
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Money helps, okay? So when you finally get some support to do something that's important, definitely money is good. I meant to highlight something earlier, and it's about measure of success. And what really keeps us together is both Dominic and I would suggest, Dominic, correct me, man. We have the same measure of success. It is how are American Indian students with disabilities doing in the school system? And everything we do, I'm doing my jam over here, and then I'm working with Dominic, and he's doing his thing and working with me. What can tie us together, all that motivation, everything else, I think it's really important to have laser focus on a shared measure of success. I think that's what makes it happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I would always say I'd say one more thing too was coming from MDE, and I'll stop so then Dominic can quickly comment. You gotta have an openness to doing work differently. The classic ways MDE has worked in the past, in many ways, were a continuation of our state government conduct in relation to our tribal communities for
Right.
what 100 years. And
Right.
so, yeah, all the stuff around, hey, you gotta have an open mind. You gotta be flexible. Making big, terrible mistakes. Meeting with representatives of Native
mm,
communities. You got to
hmm
do it. It's almost like if you're not making a huge, terrible mistake the first year or so, you're probably not doing it right.
Right.
But
Those are the
once everyone figures out, hey, but you know what? We care about the same things deeply, things do come
Mhm.
together. Dominic, what would you say?
No, I completely agree. And for Kelly, I think she's asking a similar question in the chat. Quickly, it really is just that partnership. And I click with Tom since day one coming on to Pacer, and I've only been here for 2 years. With I have my other colleagues that led this project at Pacer before me. But just just that passion for change in the community. And Kelly, you're right. It's not just money, even though that's a very critical piece in the
Yeah.
complex model for change, right? But also those other things have matter as well if you want change to happen. And so really, I think um, that was critical. And then Tom being open to that and being open to my vision of what I saw Spadig doing in the Native community and giving me the freedom and the resources to do that. And so I think that's where that success comes from now. Is there more to do? Of course. You can look at our data. I mean, that's public information, right? You can look at that. Of course, we got to do more. But I think, we got to put eyes on it. And this is just our opportunity of having you guys look at and put your eyes on it. And so just to help us do that vision.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, actually getting together, I love the idea around relationship and that laser focused on a shared goal. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too. I've really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you to Tom and Dominic. It was really great to learn from you and hear about your experience and partnership. So thank you. If you have additional questions, continue typing in the chat and keep asking questions. But for the time, we're gonna move on to the next presenter. Wait, Trina, did you have a question? I see your hand is up. Okay, so Bill, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
The floor
All
is
right.
yours.
All right. Well, let me get my screen share here. Share the application. And put it in presenter mode. All right. Could I get a thumbs up on we're sharing good and it looks come across?
That looks great, Bill.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, wow. What an act to follow. That was amazing. And I'll just say one things I'd love to hear is there was a reference several times to data, and looking at the data and using that to drive. So, want to have a little bit of a conversation, and worked with Jennifer and John in terms of coming to you with just really a way to start and to begin to think about so that you could be prepared to have a conversation with maybe an IT team or developers or someone in your office around building out a data dashboard. So really focus on kind of practical business owner focused considerations for data dashboards. So that's our goal. Let's talk about that. Heads up, we are going to have a little bit of an activity. I'll give some kind of context, some information, and then John will break you out into groups of 3 to 5-ish and have a little activity, and we'll come back together and share on that. So first of all, begin. Who am I? I'm Bill Hannekins. I am at AEM Corporation, and we are grantees and serve on many of the OSEP data centers. So we have the Rhonda Weiss Center for Accessible IDA Data and the Center for the Integration of IDA Data. Plus, we're partners on all the other OSEP data centers. So really support state education agencies, districts, support some other centers, all around data management, governance, and systems work. So happy to be here and to share this information. So if we're ready, we'll jump into it here. So in considering I'd like to have better access to data. I'd like something I could pull up on a daily, weekly basis that I could look at my data, some kind of dashboard. You've heard about dashboards. Where do you begin? Well, first you have to clarify the purpose. Why the dashboard needs to be created? What decisions should the dashboard support? Is it a policy? Is it a practice? Something with the evaluation work that you're doing related to your grant? What problem is it trying to solve, or are you trying to solve with data? What decisions are currently really hard to make and or slow to come about or inconsistent because you don't have access to data, because you're not able to, in a way, look at the data, maybe filter it, examine, look at it, and it just makes having a decision, coming to a decision, really very hard and difficult. So, what would success look like if your dashboards work really well? It's oftentimes really helpful in terms of coming up with purpose, like, what's the vision? What would the success be out there? You want to get to this point. And if you had a dashboard in front of you that was updated as needed, contained the right information, what would that give you? What would that success look like in your work and the daily, weekly, whatever it is, efforts that you have to undertake to do the service that you do? Right. Next, it's important to identify the different roles, kind of the who is involved. So there's always some kind of a business owner, the person generally responsible for the business activity that you're doing. This could be your state director, could be you as the SPDIG director. Maybe there's an assistant director that would be identified as the business owner. And sometimes the business owner is the same person as the decision owner, someone who can have the authority to, yes, we're going to do, we've done a little bit of planning, we've kind of defined some things and we want to move forward. Well, someone's got to commit resources, right? Someone's got to, support the individuals who are going to do this work with the time to do it, right? And so who's the decision maker that can do that? So the data steward's also very important. Who is the individual that understands the context of the data, who understands what the data represents, right? That's what data is, in some kind of format, a representation of something that happened, and an activity. And who is the individual that understands that? Having that individual identified, documented is really critical. Then you're going to need a report developer, someone that can use whatever program it is, Microsoft Power BI, Tableau, whatever system you're going to use, someone needs to be the report developer. Someone's got to kind of sit down and fingers to keyboard and make it happen. The good news nowadays is a lot of these solutions, they're called low code. So it doesn't have to be someone that's necessarily with the IT team that can, do coding. It can be, solutions that are products that are called low code, much easier to do. And oftentimes folks come out of, graduate degree programs, with the skills to do this kind of work. So it doesn't take a hard IT developer type person oftentimes to do this work. But you need to identify a developer, someone that can do the direct work. All right, so next that is important is define the audience and the use cases. So the audience segmentation, kind of divide them up, document who the audience is. Is it someone in leadership? That's who the audience of the dashboard, the report that you're going to build. Is it someone in leadership? Is it other SEA staff members that you have, managers, supervisors, a data analyst or an operational staff, someone out in the field doing the work that you need to create a dashboard for to help guide them in what they're doing? Are there external stakeholders? A lot of times dashboards are meant for the public. Are there consultants? Are there evaluators? Kind of documenting out who is the audience that you're targeting with the information and the use cases is a critically important step. The who, if you will. So, key questions for the audience. What level of detail does each audience or the specific audience that you've identified need? How deep do you need to go? Do they need drill down? Or at a higher level, bar charts, graphs? What kind of information do they need? Do different views in the dashboard need to exist for the different roles? How sensitive is the data? That's a very important consideration. Need to follow the Family Educational Privacy Rights Act, FERPA, that many have probably heard of, and it's critically important to follow, who should access what kind of data, and paying attention to small n sizes, so small counts. And that's oftentimes in our work in the special education space. If you disaggregate, it can often be a challenge to protect sensitive data as needed. Does the data need to be accessible, 508 compliant? That's a critically important consideration. And one of the things that comes with accessibility is it's not just when you make a display, a dashboard accessible for individuals who may be blind, low vision, cognitive, physical disabilities, it makes it more accessible for everyone. Accessibility is universal, and taking those considerations is just a general help for anybody that may be looking at examining what you're doing. Okay. So now that you've kind of what you want to do, you've thought about who the audience is, who you're targeting, what you want to look at. You've kind of considered what level of data. You need to do an inventory and assessment of the data sources. So do a review. What is the system of record for that data? What's the another way to talk about this, the authoritative source of record for the data that you want to create into a dashboard? Are there manual data inputs that might need to happen because you don't necessarily have all the data? Are there external data feeds? Does it need to come from outside of your agency or your office? Are we looking at historical or real-time data? That has significant implications for building a dashboard. What are the data sources being used? That's like the physical source of it, if you will. Is it a spreadsheet, something on a SharePoint list, a relational database? That's just a relational database is a standard database, like behind student information systems. There's a relational database behind IEP programs. There's a relational database. It's a structured database that can be accessed a number of different ways and might take someone with more skills. So key questions when thinking about or looking at the data sources. Where does the data come from? I talked about authoritative. Is it trusted, right? Do you have confidence and trust in that data? Is there latency? So does it come, 2 months down the road, and that creates potentially a challenge? Probably not dealing with real-time data in this kind of situation. Nightly uploads. So these are just general considerations because there could be lots of different sources that you're dealing with. Are there any data quality issues that already exist with the data? You need to identify those. And one of the principles of data management, if you do have data quality issues, the key and number one way to improve data quality is to use it. Low quality data is data that is not being used, that's just collected, never looked at, never examined. If you use the data, if it's fed into a dashboard that people are looking at, that's going to improve the quality. And that just needs to be a consideration. It may take a couple iterations, a couple refreshes, and some work downstream where the data is sourced from to get the high quality data needed to have trust and confidence in the dashboards that you've built. All right. So any questions with kind of that background information? We're just at 2 minutes after, so we'll address any questions now before talking about our breakout activity. Happy to address anything.
Thanks, Bill, for building that in. And again, I'll go ahead and remind people, feel free to come off microphone and pose questions vocally. I really encourage that. But also, we'll be monitoring the chat, as Bill, I'm sure, is as well. So you can pose any questions or thoughts there also.
And I actually can't see, well, if I go over here, I can see the chat. Uh, it was thank yous. Okay. All right. Well, if no questions, the goal of this breakout group activity is to document the who, what, and why for a data dashboard. So it's in a creative way. Tried to be creative here for you all. Have something hopefully kind of interesting to or a way to think about this. As a blank, I need to see blank so I can. So the who, what, and why you want to do it. I'll drop that in the chat as we break up, but if someone could record those 2 to 3 use cases and come back, we'll want to share and we'll have a discussion around them and do some exploration and kind of work our minds around this a little bit. So I will stop sharing, John, and if we're at 3 minutes after the hour, let's go 12, 13 minutes, John, for breakout times, and that's the prompt. And
Great.
thank you.
Thanks, Bill. So everybody can grab that prompt out of the chat before you go into your breakout rooms. The breakout rooms are open. I think generally the way to do it from your view is to click on the Rubik's Cube looking icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and that'll lead you towards your breakout rooms. If anybody has trouble connecting to it, let me know. Again, so we can share it with people, and the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you. Yes, I hope love to see. Group was absolutely amazing. Amazing group. How about sharing your response to the prompt, the kind of getting at the who, what, and why around data dashboards?
Go ahead, Yolanda.
Yours was awesome. I really liked yours.
I just wanted to give love to my group. Okay, I said as a CMTSS specialist, I need to see systems level data, right? So that I can action plan with my teams.
So you need to see systems level data so you can what with the team?
Oh, action plan with my teams.
Action plan. Okay. So what are components? So digging into the what systems level. So what is that data?
So that data would be around the DCA data, right? What's the capacity of my district to implement MTSS?
Okay.
Our school fidelity data, what are the pieces so going from district to school, what is the school capacity to implement CMTSS at the school level? So those are the two major pieces that we look at to action.
Okay. So what would be measures of the school capacity? How would you thinking about how that would be displayed? You need some kind of measures to get at school capacity. So
we actually have my Colorado uses Tableau, and we have a dashboard. We have the 5 components of CMTSS, and it shows where they have scored on Fidelity tool and with the so
awesome. All right. Great. So my group was phenomenal as well. Loved learning. So Dr. Cooper with ISB, want to share?
I actually am going to allow my peers to speak on their behalf because I was in a group with evaluators and I am the SPDIG director. So they have a different visual lens than myself. But for me, I said, as the director, I need to see the data exist in real time from a qualitative perspective. I always find myself in meetings about numbers and this and surveys and evaluations, but I don't get to see how it's being implemented. And that helps me paint the picture as I'm writing my APR. This is actually my first time writing an APR. Well, I'm done with my sections, but it's my first time, but it's like I've been speaking to it for the last 5 or 6 months, but I would like to see the data dashboard in real time in a school. How's it being implemented? What are the questions that they're asking from the evaluator perspective? So that was mine, but I'll let them share. I had Amanda and Leslie, I believe.
Yeah, I'll speak first and then definitely Amanda, you had a great thought that is, I think, worth hearing. Um, yeah, as evaluation lead in New York State, um, we are collecting data from so many different sources, and they're all many just sitting in different folders on servers. And I've got so much data. I want a unified system so that I can know at a glance, how many districts and schools do we have? How many people exited in this time period? Um, where is the progress? What's the progress on the fidelity data collection? So that I can hopefully help guide the team and, then we can reach out to our partners to get what's missing. But it feels to me very challenging right now dealing with everything in spreadsheets, which is kind of where we're sitting. Going to shift to a database actually for the next round. Amanda?
Over here racking my brain trying to figure out what thing I said because I feel like I said a lot of stuff, and so I'm like trying to like go back and think, well, which thing did I say? One of the things
About the questions, really,
Okay,
that
thank
that
you. I
question
was like,
piece.
man, I talked a lot. One of the
And
things
the multiple dashboards, like when you were talking about the multiple dashboards, and sometimes it could be over stimulating or complex for people.
Okay. So what we found is when we have tried to build data dashboards to look into something, even simple data sets, and we start pulling in all those filters and stuff like that, people get overwhelmed and they realize they can't keep track or figure out what all the trends are because they filter and there's another trend, and they filter again, and there's another trend. And so one of the things that we have is like we kind of had to go back and say, okay, this isn't working for us. We need to go back to the why. Why are we
Mhm.
building this dashboard? Who are we building it for? Who's going to be looking at it? And what are the questions we're seeking to answer? And we start small. We start with a broad, you know, some basic data points. And then we try to use in our state, we're trying to go through and use the same data, the same decision-making process that we've been teaching our districts at schools, that we've been preaching all these years, that we never used at the state level of saying, okay, well, we start with the question, we delve in. What are the hypotheses that were coming up? What are the five whys? And so like that, like kind of go through these questions and then using that to help guide us on to what's the next step? What do we add into this dashboard? What do we bring in next? Do we delve into it? Now, do I say we're perfect at it? No. We have Excel spreadsheets over here and there, and we've used Tableau, but Tableau had a learning curve, and now we're moving to Power BI. Um, I use things like Power Query and everything
Mhm.
else to do stuff because not that you guys really want to know all that stuff because I'm a data geek. Um, and I geek out on that stuff. And we have to understand our audience, I guess. It's like we need to understand our audience. And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, some people can't handle a dynamic dashboard. There are a lot of
Mhm.
people that I deal with who want paper, like print paper, glimpses of things. So, um, I know that's probably not like, like there's just
Well,
some,
you have to meet people where you have to meet people where they're at, right?
yeah.
And and giving them something too complicated doesn't help. So, Amanda, that was great because I think you really echoed the process I tried to lay out, right? You talked about a simple use case, starting simple, identifying the audience and the why, and you kind of you did it. You could have given this session.
And
You
then we also have to find
uh,
time to get feedback. Because we
mhm.
can't fix something if we don't take the time to hear from the people who are actually using it or whose questions we're trying to answer. And if we're not meeting it, like that's the other thing. Um, so okay, I'm done talking. I talk a lot.
That's great. It was awesome. Yes. Yes, Dr. Cooper, feedback loops are essential, right? The first shot that you build on something, you're going to need to iterate through it and cycle through. So, we're at 28 after, and so I think that gives our leaders just a couple minutes to wrap things up. And thank you for the opportunity to discuss this. and really appreciate the ability to share. The slides I will share with John, and he can send them out to you. And happy to engage any of you all in further discussions around around data dashboards. So thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for introducing your center's work, your work, and leading these very helpful discussions. So thank you, thank you. I have a quick plug, if I may. So the OSEP conference, you can still register if you plan to attend the conference, and encourage your team members to register as well if you want to come as a team. And then the call for proposal is open. So please consider submitting a session for 60-minute presentation or poster session. It's still open, so please consider submitting a proposal if you have something to share. So those are my quick plugs. And John, I'll turn it over to you to close out.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone. Really, Tom and Dominic, thank you for presenting. It was a pleasure to watch the two of you present as partners, and your authenticity and ability to trust and share with one another really shone through. Bill, thank you for taking the time, to come talk with us and our group. It's so important that the SIG network members, the SPDIG group as a whole, understands very efficient and effective ways to share data and be able to share success stories. So thank you for that and presenting on the data dashboards. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And those of you who are willing to come off mute and pose questions in real time on our shows as well. Thank you for posting in the chat. And finally, Soon Young, thank you for filling in for Jennifer. You did fantastic today. I wish everyone a great end of the week, and we'll be in touch. Bye.
Bye all. Take care.